This is Jantzen Beach on Hayden Island. And today I'm going to Vancouver and I'm walking there across the river. And one thing about Jantzen Beach, at one time there was a beach here. Well, there still is a beach. But at one time there was a beach that people could visit, and it was a world famous resort center. At least world famous by the standards of, you know, how anything in Oregon is world famous. And even when I was a child, there was like a mall here that you could go in and it was kind of glamorous. It's right across the river from Vancouver, so we would come here from the Vancouver area, because it was tax-free. And that mall had like a carousel in it, and it was like kind of a fancy shopping mall. And now we have a big box store, no internal walkways, basically a shopping plaza. And, you know, the things change, but it is kind of a disappointment because we go from amusement park before I was born to when I was a child, a fancy shopping mall, to today we have, you know, a Target, a Staples, a Petco, a TJ Maxx. Not that I'm insulting those retailers, but, you know, it's not really an experience. It's just a nest of roads and interchanges. Another thing about Hayden Island is it's an island, unlike some other places that are called islands, but they're not anymore. This is a true island in between the Columbia River and a channel of the Columbia River, and it's about 1,000 feet from north to south. I don't know, maybe 2,000 feet. But as you can see, like right here, these exits and entrances are very sharp. And it's not really designed for freeways, but because there's a big retail center, they've had to kind of shoehorn in entrance and exits. And that's going to be an issue when they redesign or rebuild this bridge, whether it will have the same freeway access, because it's kind of hard to make. So the two spans, wait a minute, one second. That's an airplane. That will come in soon. Beginning again. The two spans look identical superficially. The one on the right, I believe, is the original bridge built in 1918, and then this was built in 1958. And they look the same and they function the same, but there's probably differences structurally. And in 1958, when this was completed, this also became part of the Eisenhower Interstate system. And there, if I zoom in on the Vancouver side, there's a train coming in from the east. There is a lot of trains that go through Vancouver and then move north or south. There's probably a story there. I don't know what it is. I don't know how apparent this is from the video, but here the bridge is going up pretty steeply. Not too steep to walk, but on a bicycle going up or coming down, it can be difficult. Also, I don't know if any of this is even audible over the traffic. Although one thing should be clear from this is a very busy bridge, and some of this traffic is local commuters, some of it is trucks going up and down I-5. And we can see about a mile downstream, maybe not even a mile, this is the main train bridge, completed in 1906. And this is actually a turntable bridge, so if you see this span, it actually rotates to let ships through. This, like I said, is a drawbridge, which can cause problems, because when ships go under, the bridge goes up, and traffic has to stop. Looking down at these holes for the trusses makes me more than a little bit nervous. And this here, in the distance, is the Port of Vancouver. About 10% of the United States' raw grain exports, bulk grain exports, go through some elevators. I don't know if we can see them, So the Port of Vancouver is an important port, or at least not an unimportant port. Another airplane flying off. And up above, we have the counterweights for the drawbridge. Those things could really stub your toe. It's not just a law, it's a good idea. And that's another smaller airplane. We'll talk about that in a minute. The bridge was noisier than I thought it was going to be, and I didn't get to say everything, and what I did say was probably incomprehensible. This shows the bridge, shows how long it is, and one thing to remember, like I said, the other side is an island. So past there, there's another bridge over the southern branch of this river. And so it's quite an engineering challenge to build a bridge over what's really 2 or 3 miles, counting the island. And it's especially a challenge, this is one of the things that's come up, is the US Coast Guard, which, is, looking at river shipping, because this is an interstate waterway, has a minimum height that the bridge can clear. And it would be taller than it is now if it's not a drawbridge, which means that grade would be steeper. And also, when that bridge gets taller, there are 2 airports, one on the north, one on the south side. The south side is the Portland airport, big airport. North side is a smaller airport. And so the FAA doesn't want the bridge to be too tall, because in certain conditions, if those posts or something were taller, it could present a threat. So there's a couple of issues like that with replacing this bridge. Another issue on the south side of that bridge, we have the city of Portland, the county of Multnomah, and the state of Oregon. And right now, over here, I am in the city of Vancouver, the county of Clark, the state of Washington. So right there, you have 6 jurisdictions, all with different opinions. And then we have the transit agencies from both with their own opinions. And then, like I said, we have different federal agencies. We have the Federal Aviation Administration, we have the US Coast Guard, we have the Federal Highway Agency, and they all have different goals and rules and opinions and processes about what to do with this bridge. By the way, they're not just replacing the bridge because they want to spend $4 billion for the heck of it. When they built this bridge in 1918, we didn't really know how plate tectonics worked and stuff. And so it's a pretty stable bridge, but it is getting older, and in a 8 or 9 Richter subduction quake, that bridge would not do very well. There's another airplane coming out of PDX. I also find it a little bit ironic. There's a lot of debate about this bridge, and one of the reasons I'm making this video, I went on YouTube and I couldn't really find anything that really explained it with live coverage and explained things. So there's lots of opinions, and what I'm showing is not actually, the absolute unbiased truth, but this is what it really looks like. No Ibanda, and I know lots of things. Another point about different opinions, like I said, 10% of the grain that leaves the US in bulk leaves out of some buildings over there. It's something like between Kalama, Vancouver, and Portland, it's like 30% of the grain grown all the way out from, I guess, the Dakotas, and in Oregon, and in Washington goes out through these ports along the Columbia and the Willamette. Which is kind of funny because, Portland has this kind of twee reputation. Everybody works in a vegan cupcake shop. No, Vancouver and Portland, we do a lot of stuff like that here. Anyway, so a lot of that comes down in barges that has to go under the drawbridge. And so when we talk about replacing that bridge, a lot of people from suburban Vancouver, they have opinions because they want to get to work in Portland. And it seems really obvious how it should be replaced for them. But that might not be obvious if you're a grain farmer in Eastern Oregon and you need your crop to go over under this bridge by barge so it can then go in a bulk container ship to South Korea. And obviously people in Portland also have their objections to, one idea that this should just be a car bridge, because, that's going to cause noise and air pollution. So a lot of things that are obvious about this aren't obvious from other viewpoints. And it's kind of like a game of Sudoku. It's like you put in answers there, and then it's like 5 steps later, you're like, no, I have to redo everything. So it is kind of a conundrum. It's also a beautiful bridge. Another final note, the downtown Vancouver waterfront, which for a long time was just empty lots, is getting developed. And part of that is that as Portland got very expensive, a lot of stuff moved here. And that's been kind of a trend, is that suburban counties around metro areas, that the metro areas are getting too expensive, are becoming, it looks Hotel Indigo, becoming kind of fancy themselves. Anyway, that's about it for now. I have other things to do. Thank you for listening to my rants. Another thing, one final note. When they put this here, when they built this, they didn't really know. When the first airport was built in Pearson Field, nobody knew how big this area would get. Same with the Portland airport. Same with the highway bridge. Same with the train bridge. And you look at it, Hayden Island, there's been a city there for 10,000 years. It's been a water trading point for 10,000 years. So a lot of this stuff is just caused by history. You don't always know what's going to happen in the future. I guess that's my final philosophical point.